Surprise me.
Surprise you. Oh, I like
And we're back.
Famous last words to surprise you. Well, surprise, surprise. NAR has new information that they've given out to us.
What about?
New rules. So what they are presenting is a clear cooperation policy. And I don't know if you as a consumer have heard anything about this or know when this stuff goes on, but usually what happens is we get the words from higher up and it filters down, and then people start scrambling trying to figure out, well, what does that mean for my business? So clear cooperation has typically been where my brokerage may list a house and we put it into the MLS, and that clear cooperation goes out so that any other realtor brokerage is able to see that information, it's marketed, and then they can come through the process if that is of interest to their clients, right? And then, of course, this all turned on its head last year when there was the whole, well, you can't talk about commission in the MLS and everything, which, you know, we'll just leave it at that. But now they've put out this additional information. So after many months, they have deliberated across the country and across the industry, what do we need to do for what our clients, the consumers, are wanting? So I'm going to present this to you and get your take, since you don't know about this.
Okay.
Multiple listing operation options for sellers. So multiple listing options for sellers will exist in conjunction with the clear cooperation policy, and other MLS policies will provide sellers and agents more options and the choice when marketing their property. How does this boil down? A consumer will have the option to market their home as a delayed marketing exempt listing. It means that the seller can instruct their listing agent to delay the marketing of their listing to other agents outside of their firm for a set period of time.
Why?
So the idea behind that is hey, maybe you already know somebody, and without me having to open up my home and go through all this real public process of selling my home, maybe you can just go ahead and get it done, kind of like on the DL. You're just going to take care of it. So that's one reason, right? Well, during that delayed marketing period, the home seller and the listing agent can market the listing, but it's in a manner that's consistent with the seller's needs, and at the same time, that delayed marketing exempt listing will stay available to other MLS participants through the MLS. So they can see it.
They just can't view it
In
person?
It's just not going out through. So when we put our information in the MLS, there's an IDX feed, which feeds to the 30, 40, 50 different sites that pick up what realtors are doing. You know, they make their living off of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so they pick up those feed sites. So those extraneous websites are what won't get that.
Oh, so is this like Zillow, Realtor.com?
Yes.
Those type of places?
Yeah. So if you don't have the IDX feed going out to those extra websites, that's not going out per se to the general public, right? But the MLS is a platform that I, as a realtor, have access to. Mm-hmm. So other realtors who are members of our MLS would have access to it. But the consumers aren't going to see it because you don't have the physical access to our MLS. And sometimes you see where people are concerned about privacy. They're concerned maybe if they're a little bit famous or in political arenas or even police officers, or, you know, some protecting of your space and not just having all of the information out there. Each MLS is going to have the discretion to determine what that delayed marketing period is going to be and what works. Listing agents represent the sellers choose to delay the public marketing of their listing can secure from their seller assigned disclosure documenting that the client actually understands what that means. That I'm not getting, you want to sell your house, you want to go to as many people as possible, right? You want everyone to know that this house is available and it's for sale. But if you don't, and you want to be private about it and try to do it, then this is an option for you to be able to do that. So in our area, our MLS has said we don't facilitate the coming soon theory. Because obviously if you're going to be coming soon, you want to be doing marketing. And if you're doing marketing, then you need to be active and available for people to see it. It's like when I put the sign in the yard, I have 24 hours to get that information in the MLS because somebody driving by is going to see the sign and they're going to want to get in there. And well, if I can't get in there and I can't see online, why is this house listed? Why is there a sign in there? It's kind of a miscommunication to the public, right?
Yeah.
So in that respect, we have these rules that we're supposed to follow, and now we have a different way of this rule to appease the needs of particular clients in those circumstances. But there's a lot of turmoil in the market, and a lot of agents are confused about this as to what they can and can't do, and that's just going to rub off onto the consumers. So if you were deciding to sell your house, what would you want?
Okay, so I can see it both ways.
I knew that you could.
But I feel like there's going to be this third way that is going to just kind of shit on it all.
Yeah.
Right? So the first one is like, I see why that is appealing to some people if they're high profile, or even if like it's a contentious divorce, you know, and or some kind of like contentious relationship.
Sure.
And you don't want that person signing up for a tour and coming in your home.
Right.
You know, but I feel like this opens it up to like backdoor deals.
Pocket listings as well, we refer to it.
Yeah. So how, for the seller's point of view, I feel like it kind of shoots them in the foot doing it this way, because say somebody gives you list a house for 500,000 and somebody's like, yep, here's 500,000. Like, I want this house. But you had somebody who would have seen it if it was advertised to the general public, and they're willing to pay 540 for that. So you just screwed yourself out of $40,000.
Yes. And that's really the concern. So in the paperwork that is going along with this type of an agreement, it is laying it out for the consumer, the seller, to absolutely understand what they are asking their agent to do. I don't want you marketing this outside at all. I want this done very quietly. I don't want any exposure. And I understand that means instead of 4,000 people seeing my listing on the first day that it goes live, I may only get 400, right? And from that, you know, it's going to bottle down. So if you would have had maybe 100 people come through showings during the course of that listing, maybe now you're only going to get 10.
Right.
And then from the 10, are you going to be lucky enough to get one to give you an offer? And then when the offer comes, is it going to be competitive because you're not really on the open market? Whereas we know multiple offers, competitive bidding, people are going up on the list price. Our data shows our list price to sell price has been higher percentage because there have been higher offers made than the list price.
Yeah.
Because they're competing offers. So as the seller, you want to respect what the seller is wanting to do as far as safety, privacy, all of that. But as the agent, we're wanting to make sure that we're securing the deal as well, right? And we're getting you the best dollar for the sale itself. And that competing along the way does help to bring that in there. We're starting to see a shift in our market. And
that's what I was going to say. I feel like that this is too hot on the heels of the real estate market that we've had, where you do get multiple offers, you do get multiple showings, like as soon as it gets listed. And like go back to 2008 where houses sat on the market for
145 days.
Yeah. And then tell me you want to do a private listing where you're only telling your friends about it.
Right. Right. So it's a little bit, you know, we've had the MLS meetings. We have all these things that are going on and trying to digest this. I just happened to have been in Chicago when this was released. So I'm able to go to NAR and talk with and have a conversation like, what's the rationale behind this? And what we hear in our Dayton area is it's really, no one wants to buy into this. They don't understand why is this being shoved into the marketplace when things are good the way that they are. Well, things are the way that they are, right? And what you have to understand is that NAR is a national organization. So they're getting input from all 50 states. And so if you take into account California, New York, Florida as different types of markets, right? I'm going to take Florida even out of this equation and just deal with New York and California, because those are the ones that are on all the reality shows.
Yeah.
Right now, you got agents, not necessarily realtors, so they're not necessarily members of NAR. If they are not a member of NAR, they are not technically a realtor. They can be a real estate agent. They're licensed to sell, but they're not a member of that organization. So they don't have the right to call themselves a realtor, but they're doing real estate business and transactions. And many of them are high profile with Instagram and TikTok followings. And those numbers generate contacts and leads and opportunities for them. So it's a different school of doing real estate business than the traditional get in the office, put your listing in the MLS, do your networking, talk to those people that are in the business and doing the industry work, and sharing and talking about your business, right?
Yeah.
So if business goes to truly a social media front, you can see where the MLS is going to get pushed out. Potentially. Now, we live in the Midwest, and this is the conversation that I had yesterday. Understand, NAR is looking at what they have from the dynamics everywhere else, and if there is a million, well, let's say there's 200,000 agents in the state of California, and you have another 200,000 in the state of New York, that is almost a third of the numbers of realtors across the country.
Yeah.
So it's more like a quarter of it, between a quarter and a third of the numbers of members, right? That's pretty impactful. That's a lot of sway to say, yeah, we don't need it. And I think that our real estate industry is certainly in line for even more shakeup, surprise. And I think that it should be driven by what our consumers need. That is first and foremost what should be driving our business. You know, people are resistant to go onto these social media platforms, but if you're on it and you see my listing on a social media platform, you still know that you can reach out to me. I mean, that's the great thing about them is boop, okay, DM me or text me or whatever it takes, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is kind of a peripheral before the rest of this comes together. It's kind of laying the groundwork that we have to start addressing what our clients' needs are and how they want it advertised. Now, I'll say all of that. The ruckus behind this coming out, Zillow is absolutely furious.
Oh, I would be if I was
Their whole
a
business
CEO or whatever.
has been built off of what I, as a realtor, and those that are realtors have done. They've tapped into our business. And even though in the beginning they were like, we're here with you, we don't want to interfere with what agents do. Well, they have, and they became a brokerage. They became a brokerage so that they had access to our information. And so now they're saying, if I don't allow the IDX feed when I put my listing into the MLS, they won't put my listing ever on their Zillow site.
How are they going to keep track of that?
So by having it turned off, you're going to be banned from their system, apparently, flagged or
turn them back on.
Well, so
Because isn't it per listing?
if my consumer is telling me I don't want it to go out there, then I have to do what my consumer, my client, is telling me, right?
Yeah.
Even if they understand and I say, well, it's going to get us less traffic, it's going to be this, I understand, we're going to do it. We're going to follow your rules, right? Your requirement, your wishes. But if that on the backside is going to terminate me with Zillow, well, Zillow, guess what? I guess you're SOL. You're not going to take my listings. I'm okay, but the consumers are being hurt by that. So that's what really gets me going.
But is it terminated forever? Or is it just that listing?
Well, depending on the wording that they use. Depending on the wording, it could be read either way. And so here's the funny thing. Zillow makes their money off of me, off of my listings, and they turn around and they sell me leads off of my listings on their site. So all that money that they've taken in, now they are going to hold this high and mighty attitude about, well, if you don't do that, then we're not going to work with you. Well, guess what? Maybe you'll have to find another business revenue, because if enough realtors don't do it, because our clients are saying they don't want it, then that's the thing. I have clients who've reached out to me and said, this information on Zillow is wrong. How do I get it corrected? That's like, I don't want my house on there. My house isn't for sale. How do I get it off? And so all the things that come up about what's going on with this, pros and cons, because I can see both sides. Many people in the business didn't want our listings to go to Zillow. Well, when Zillow became a brokerage, we couldn't stop it. So they get it. But they have the information from the get-go. They don't get rid of it once it's sold because they don't get our sold data from the MLS. And it's this really at odds process, and it shouldn't be.
So how does a listing update on Zillow to sold?
Only if somebody manually goes in there and puts that information in, or after the county finally records it, that somebody in Zillow may go in and put the information in. So whether or not it's accurate is the first question, because you get that Zestimate and it's probably not what your realtor is going to pull for your house value.
Yeah.
That's because I have sold data. They don't, unless somebody's put it in there, and then it's iffy if it's accurate. But again, it's just, we boil down to what I do as a relationship business, right? I build these relationships so that I can work with people over the course of their lifetime, and those that they know when they need buy, sell real estate. And I don't want it to be contentious, and I don't want to have all of these back battles that are going on just because news comes out that you have to do your business this way. Okay, well, I will adjust my business. I will do what I need to do. Ultimately, my whole goal is to serve the needs of my clients.
Yeah.
If the MLS isn't going to look at that as their number one goal, then maybe the MLS isn't going to be there. If Zillow or Realtor.com or any of these other sites aren't going to see that as their number one goal, then maybe they aren't going to be around. And then does that allow for the social media platforms to really become a viable option? And we've talked about this. You have to be wary of scams. You have to make sure that this information is accurate. Anybody can set up, just like anybody can set up a Gmail account, anybody can set up a platform account on a social media. Doesn't mean it's legit. Doesn't mean it's really a house that's standing and in that condition.
Yeah.
But man, it gets the likes and the views and all of that stuff, and all you need is one to go viral, and then you're at, right?
Right. I feel like recently I've seen on Facebook specifically, one of the reels will pop up and it's like this badass house, and they're like, it's only $350,000 in Oklahoma. And people are like, we live in Oklahoma. This is not a $350,000 house.
Right.
Like, this is $1 million plus.
Right. So the reality is there, right? And
Or like AI, I
Yeah.
feel like could be creating these videos
yes,
for houses that literally don't exist.
because they're trying to get the views. They're trying to get that viral effect. And so if they do all this wham bam and all of those special effects and everything, and all the hottest trends are all in one house, first of all, that would be overkill. But
Yeah.
it is something that you have to be wary of. And that's why I think that realtors as a profession continue to be of service to the consumer, because we're going to help you guide through this process, but also verify that information is correct, avoid those scams, make sure that the value is where we need it to be, or that it's legitimate on what's being advertised. And there's so many already, there are so many hoops to jump through the process. You don't need more things to go through it.
Yeah.
But as a consumer, if you drive by and you see a sign in the yard, and it stays and it stays, and you don't see anything ever come up on any of the sites that you go on, you're probably reaching out asking me, what the heck is going on? Is this house for sale or not? Because I see this sign out there. It's been out there 3 weeks.
So is there guidance to create realtors more business because of that scenario?
I don't know that that's it. I think
Or is that just a benefit?
I think it's
A good side effect?
I think it could be a good side effect. I think the reality is people think they want easy. They think they want a solution, but what they're doing is getting a solution to a problem that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And that's the bigger issue, right?
So of all of your years being a realtor, how many clients have said, don't advertise, just sell my house?
2 in 24 years.
That's crazy.
And
you've been in multiple markets.
in multiple markets, in all different types of economic markets, you know,
Yeah.
in every aspect, and dealt with even what I would consider high profile clients. My last one actually was their home they were selling in Chicago. So I wasn't their agent. I referred to another agent, and that was one of their requirements. They did not want their information public. And, you know, that for their benefit, that was relayed to the listing agent who was going to take on. And when they did what they did, it automatically fed out. And first thing she did was call and say, hey, this was not what I agreed to. And I had to turn around and say, yeah, I don't know what's going on. If their MLS requires certain things, that might be, but I will make the call and make sure that they understand that that was not what you wanted, and see if they can take it down. We were able to get down. It took a couple of days because of the feed cycle, but it took a couple of days. She did get it down, except for one it was up there probably 6 weeks. And then finally that information was taken down. But again, those extraneous websites that are grabbing that feed, think of it this way. You post a blog, you put it out there, it gains some traction. Well, Yahoo may pick it up and Google will pick it up. And then you've got all these different sites that are taking hold of that information, and it's deciphered. You don't even know really what all sites this may now be found on.
Right.
That's what happens with our stuff. When we put it in there, it's going out on these feed sites, which is how Craigslist became notorious grounds for fraud. Was they would go grab our listing pictures, put it up for a quick rental at a ridiculous low price, and people would show up with money in hand to some scammer who had no rights to the house or anything.
Yeah.
And so through what we do with our IDX feed and going through the process, there's ways that we can do some protection. But you still have to understand, once it's out on the website, it's out. Once it's on the internet, it's there.
Right.
So understanding somebody who doesn't want that out there, you know, public record for the good and the bad of it is a lot, right? And if you're a single female on Instagram and notorious for whatever, you know, and you're getting famous about it, if you own a property, there's a chance that if you own it in your name, that's easily defined.
Yeah.
Well, then you have these cases of stalkers and things that come out as a result of that. So what do you do as an individual? If you come into notoriety, maybe you're not buying in your name, you're buying in a business name, you're hiding that identity in some way. You're taking some precautions to build layers to protect yourself. This is another one of those layers that consumers may ask for, is when I go on my listing, I just don't want it all out there.
Yeah.
I just want it to keep private. Give me this period of time, and if you sell it during that time, we're great, we're golden. And maybe they don't care if they lost 40 grand on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Would you care?
It depends on if your privacy, what your privacy is worth.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Well, more to come, I'm sure.
So was this effective like immediately?
Effective as of September.
Oh,
So
okay.
we get a few months to ponder it over, see how does this affect what we're currently doing? Do we need to, make a new form? Do we need to do some education to our agents so that they understand what this means? Because we don't have the coming soon. Now we have this delayed marketing exempt listing, which people are confusing the two.
Yeah.
Well, if we can do that, then why can't we do this? And
I
so
like the coming soon though.
it's a whole thing. A lot of people do. A lot of people do.
So especially like when I was looking for a house and we had to be on it.
Yep.
And our house that we ended up getting actually was a coming soon post on social media. But I liked, I know like within the next 24 hours, 48 hours, this house is going to be posted. I need to look for it because it kind of looks like it's going to fit my parameters that I'm looking for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And by having that, you can be ready to pull the trigger instead of, maybe I need to sleep on this a night. You've already thought about it, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens and what else develops. But in the meantime, always fun in real estate.
Yeah. So our tip for this episode would be if your house does not get marketed to the public, you do not have the largest chance of getting the most money or the best deal.
Right. Or the most action, like consistent showings and activity coming through. And
Yeah.
maybe you are costing yourself money.
Yeah. In case that wasn't common sense.
Thanks. Thanks for joining us today on the Realty Podcast. If you enjoyed the knowledge and entertainment today, please subscribe and share with your friends. We will be embarking on a journey that bridges the gap between realtors and clients, uncovering the heart and tea of real estate.